Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force Podcast. My name is Rachael and I am your host. And today I am really excited because I am being joined by Jewlz, the Budget Nerd. And she's a financial educator who paid off over $100,000 in consumer debt. So we're going to be talking about debt, the relationship that women have with money, which I think is so important, financial freedom, all of these things that center around money, which is such a taboo thing, but one of my favorite things to talk about. So, Jewlz, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to dive in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, how would you describe the work you're doing today?
So I think it's super important. Not just because it's something that I'm super passionate about, but I feel like as a culture, it's one of the topics that we are told not to talk about growing up.
1,000%.
Yeah. And so I think that has gotten us, especially as women, into a spot where we feel shame or regret about money decisions we've made, or we don't want to talk with our girlfriends about it because we're told we shouldn't. And I think that is a really unhealthy place to be because we shouldn't be doing life alone and we should be encouraging each other. And sometimes we're going to make choices and we're going to make decisions that aren't necessarily the best ones for us or our families or for our lives, but having a sounding board to talk through those things and realizing that we all kind of struggle. Money is not necessarily like across the board, everyone's great at it or everyone stinks at it. It's one of those things, it ebbs and flows and economies change and there's lots of flux and just being able to have conversations about it is super important.
No, it is. It's such a taboo thing. And especially among women, it's really thought of to be so crass as a subject. And you just hear these stories that we're going to get into about this is why men are succeeding at so much more than women because they're talking about it. They're talking about how they scored the big deal, how they lowered the interest on their mortgage. Like they're bragging about it. And we just sit kind of by and we're so much more silent. And yet we're the biggest spenders. We're the GDP at the end of the day. Like we're the one making the big money decisions and we're spending the money. And yet where's the education for us on that?
Yeah.
So you ended up, which so many of us did, with you have a background in economics and you had debt that just accumulated and you had over $100,000 in debt. So how did the debt build up in the first place? Like, where did that come from? I mean, so many of us have it. I mean, I have it. We all do.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. I mean, some of it was, a credit card here, a credit card there. A little bit was student loans. Thankfully, my parents were able to provide most of my degree for me. I went over one quarter because I wanted to do a study abroad program. And they said, well, that's on you.
Yep. And so
I was like, I don't regret that decision. But that was a really small chunk of it. But the rest of it was just, borrowing here, borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today. And it just added up quickly. And the part that really for me, I didn't add it up until I started doing this work and helping other people because it was just, it was just these numbers. And I really knew that we wanted to pay it off. But I didn't actually until I sat down and looked at everything. And I was like, that is so much money.
That you're like, wait, what if we add? This is what we're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're getting by just fine. You just don't realize sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. There were times where we weren't, and so like my husband and I, we decided we would rather be married than support the lifestyle that we had at that time. And it wasn't like we were going on these crazy around the world vacations. His daughter lived in a different state. So sometimes we were traveling to see her, to see family. It wasn't that we were being super, we weren't taking these luxury vacations. It really does add up. These little things can add up. And if you're not tracking it or paying attention, it's not that you have to track everything, but being mindful of your spending and how it aligns with your goals and your desires for your life is really important.
Well, I also feel like you don't realize when you're young. Like I remember when I got my first big girl job and I was in San Francisco and I was like, $50,000, that's amazing. Like nobody I know in Ohio makes that. I didn't I did not realize cost of living. I didn't realize taxes. Like I didn't know any of that. Like I was bartending, taking home cash tips. Like I had no idea that all of a sudden my $250 rent in Ohio was about to be $1,200 for a room with 3 roommates. Like you didn't know. And that California takes half of your money. So really you're not making 50,000, you're making 25,000. And then then all of your stuff, like it still costs money. It's still a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a different lifestyle than you would have had in Ohio.
1,000%, literally. What was a turning point for you where you were like, this is just actually too much? This is, we've accumulated it and we didn't even realize it, which happened. Amazon.
It was yeah, it was that moment. It's my couch moment. I'm like in a ball on my couch just sobbing like this cannot be as good as it gets. Like it has to be better than this. And I've worked hard. You work hard and you're like, I deserve this life. But I was like, this is not the life that I deserve.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we need to get on the same page. Like I was raised knowing like live within your means. My husband was raised, you spend it before someone comes to take it kind of scenario. So we were
Okay. Yeah.
we were trying to, especially if you're trying to manage money with someone else, that's a whole nother that's probably a whole nother podcast. But it was just getting on the same page and realizing we wanted better for ourselves and better for our life. And so we just really got to work on creating a plan together to eliminate it because it was not bringing value to our lives. And that was
Yeah.
kind of that ultimate thing is like, if this is good as adult life gets, I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to go back to I want to go
Oh
back
my
to
God, I
high
tell kids
school
all
or
the time. I'm like, I want to go back when you didn't have bills or responsibilities or like just any of that.
I tell my 7-year-old, I'm like, "Don't grow up. It's a trap. It is the
It's
biggest
such a
scam
trap.
that this life has to offer." I'm like,
You
"Just
think
enjoy your
it's great
time."
making your own choices. I would love someone to tell me when I'm supposed to get up, where I'm going, what I'm eating, when I sleep, to take a nap. I'm
Yeah.
like, boss me
Yes,
around.
plan
I'm
your entire day.
here for this. I just want to come back as a kid repeatedly, and that's it. And you'd be like, go play outside. Okay. Go touch grass. Okay.
Yeah,
Easy
yes.
right? So,
Mhm.
especially when you're with somebody else in a relationship and you guys are not, might
Yeah.
not be combining finances, but you have to have these.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so uncomfortable to talk about money?
So kind of goes back to that first one. We're taught not to, but then there's so many emotions wrapped up in money. And the thing is, I joke with my daughter. I was like, we could be trading Pokemon cards, and it's the same thing. Like it's whatever we've decided that like
That's value.
money is our overall currency that we're trading. And so for time and goods and all of those things. And so I think that we put a lot of emotion or we attach a lot of things to money that doesn't necessarily belong there because it's an inanimate object, right? It's not
Yeah.
something that has emotions or feelings, but we depending on how we grew up, we can have a scarcity mindset about money, we can have an abundance mindset, we can have a I have no idea how much things cost or there's all kinds of emotions wrapped up in money and then when you add another person's thoughts, views, and opinions on that, then it can go all kinds of directions.
I mean, and it shouldn't be this taboo. Like, that's the thing. And
Mhm.
so, especially with women, how do you think that not having these conversations like impact women specifically? Because a lot of times a woman is a stay at home individual
Yeah.
within a relationship if they are fortunate enough to have that position.
Yeah, I think we internalize it a lot, and then that starts to cause all kinds of issues with our mental health, our physical health, how we interact with the people in our lives, our relationships. It really does bubble over, in a positive or negative way, depending on how we are with our money. If we have our goals figured out and we're going for them, it can hurt relationships or it can be great for them, and then the opposite is true, and I think that that's, um something, especially for women, we internalize a lot of stuff. And then when we're taught
Yeah.
not to talk about it, it's just like it's in there. It's like that thing that's in the pit of your stomach, the thing that's like, you know, stuck right there in your throat. And you're like, man, I really just want to talk about this because I need to get it off my chest, but we're not supposed to talk about it. And so that's kind of why I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's do this because there are healthy ways. We don't have to say, hey, this is how much money's in my checking account or this is what my credit score is. Like, let's talk about all the other things because those are the things that are important. It doesn't matter how much money is in our bank accounts.
And so when we're thinking about like teaching women, and really we should be teaching girls about money. Like
Mhm.
whenever I do like a career day speech or anything like that, and they ask the question of like, what's one class you wish you could have taken or one class you should have taken? And I think they're all thinking that we're going to say something like Latin. or something, and renowningly the amount of women that are like personal finance class, personal finance
Yeah.
class, personal finance class. I'm like, because you don't realize, I'm like, you guys are going to go to college, you're going to open up a pink credit card from Victoria's Secret. You're going to, which for a $500 limit, which in as an adult, you're like, that doesn't buy you groceries. But as a child with no job, like that's an insane
Yes.
amount of money to be buying sweaters and underwear that say the word pink on them. I'm like, then you're going to
Yes.
snowball yourself into debt. And it's a whole like ordeal of things. What do you think that we should actually be teaching like girls about money?
I think it goes so and this is something that we're doing with our daughter is going back to what matters most to us and what we want from life and matching that up with how we spend our money. And so this is also what I teach the families that I work with. If we want to have experiences in life or we want to have a specific address or something, it's let's think about those things and kind of reverse engineer it and go back to, okay, if this is the type of lifestyle that you want, let's talk about the steps to get there. Because like even my daughter this morning, we were it's our last day of school, and so I was like, hey, let's go to Starbucks and celebrate. She's all excited, and she's like,
Love that.
Mom, I want to go to college, and I was like,
There you go.
it's really cool. And I grew up in the age where you go to college if you want to be successful, and I'm grateful that I did and I had that opportunity. But I said, well, what do you want to do? And so we had this conversation because not all things require college, but it's a really great experience. And so thinking through, it doesn't have to necessarily be because I went to school with a lot of people that started and then didn't end up in the career path. They didn't even finish because they didn't know where they were going. And so having a conversation, having these plans in place, they can change, but reverse engineering what you want your life to look like, I think is super important.
No, and I love that. And I mean, it makes a good point for like everybody has a different idea of like what is important to them. Like whenever I had
Yeah.
a girlfriend, she was redoing her apartment in Paris, and so you in
Yeah.
France, you don't own those apartments, you rent, but you have to redo anything. So you bring in your own appliances, you do all of that, and if you ever
Mhm.
move, it goes with you to your next apartment. It's a really weird setup. And so she hated the bathroom that they had, and I was like, Anna, if you really want to, like demolish the bathroom and pay for it. I'm like, what's it gonna cost? And she's like
Yeah.
7,000. And I'm like, okay, I know that's a lot. I'm like, but that's what you and I would spend on a trip. Like I would spend
Yeah.
that money on a trip, but I don't have a place where I don't own a home. So like it's what's ever gonna fill your cup with how you're gonna want to spend that money. Like I would spend that on a huge vacation to somewhere or one of these travel like pre-planned
Yeah.
travel trips. I'm like, and if you spent that on yours, what's wrong with that? It's all about
Yeah.
what makes your cup full for how you want to spend it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why do you think women are less likely to really negotiate financially, like with their spouses, with their jobs, with any of those things? Because I mean, that's how we're going to be able to get more money and then be able to spend on these bigger things.
Yeah. I think some of it comes down to, um, how we can view ourselves. Maybe it's some of the things that we have heard growing up. And I know this is part of the conversation is like changing that self-talk and how we see ourselves and the value that we put on ourselves. And it's not necessarily always the dollar amount, but that is absolutely helpful when it comes to creating a lifestyle that we want for ourselves. Um, but looking at the value that we provide, to whether it's, the work economy or our home economy, whatever it looks like, is that, the way that we see ourselves, that projects. And so sometimes it isn't necessarily always in the positive light. And so doing some of that work to say, "Hey, let's work on ourselves." And I'm a mom, and one of the things that has been really helpful for me, early on, I realized I wasn't showing up as the mom that I wanted to be, and so I went and got some help, and so I see a therapist on a regular basis that helps me
As you
in the
should.
process. Yes, in the process of that, found out I have ADHD, and I have my entire life, so a lot of things made sense. And so I think in the big thing that I wanna pull out of that piece is I took time to be with myself and to learn and grow and develop myself better so that I could be better for the other people in my
Yeah.
life. And that has allowed me to show up differently, but also be such a good example for my daughter to say, "Hey, I don't have to, like you said, carry yourself
Yeah.
right there with the confidence. Yeah. Like we don't have to
Mediocre
carry it
white
all,
male.
right? We don't have to carry it all ourselves. And it's okay to ask for help in areas that we're like, you know what, I don't feel so strong in this area. And I think that that's really, I feel like for me, and a lot of the women that I talk to, that is like the core thing is that we are just kind of, navigating life on autopilot, and pausing and stopping and taking care of ourselves, mind, body, and soul are so important.
No, and I can see that, and I feel like you said, you're, like, taking care of yourself and doing that and, realizing different things by doing therapy and diving deeper.
Mhm,
I feel like when it comes to finances and it comes to money, it's, like, a completely different language that you need to learn,
mhm.
and if you don't speak the language, I feel like you're behind or you're never gonna be able to learn it or you can't catch up or you can't be a part of the conversation when
Yeah.
it really and, I mean, do you feel like it's been made that way to, like and definitely isolate women because we're not being given the kind of tools or being taught the language to get ahead in this game?
Yeah, I think the financial stuff, we overcomplicate it so much. It's very simple. Like the way to go into debt, spend more than you make. You know? Like,
Yes.
that's it, that's it. There's all these other things, and there's all these other products that companies will have, banks and, investment companies that will, teach you and all these how to grow those, how to grow your savings and all this stuff, but really it comes down to, if we are spending more than we're making, we're gonna go into debt. If we're, saving more than or if we're making more than we spend, then we're gonna be able to save some for the future. And really, that's what it boils down to. All of those other things are additional periphery things that are, and this is one of the most heavily regulated, but also marketed industries is, is the financial world. And like you said, going back to women, is sometimes the schools don't teach this,
No.
uh, on a very basic level. I was just talking to someone else like, "Oh, my mom thought it was really important I learn how to balance a checkbook." Well, we've moved past the balancing a checkbook, like, we're
I
really
don't
not
even have
using cash
checks.
anymore.
It was so
Yeah,
confusing. I had to order some, and I was like, "I don't even know how to do this." I'm like, "Where
yeah.
do you get checks from?"
And so the industry changes, and so it's kind of like technology. If we aren't on board, then we're behind. And so if you don't learn and grow with it, then it will leave you behind. But really, I think that the big picture is we overcomplicate it. And so just finding a resource that's going to help explain it to you in day-to-day terms. And that's one of the things that I do on my show is I want to make this approachable for women and for
Yeah.
families, because money is not going away. It's,
No.
we might change a little bit on how we use it. But it's still buying our experiences, it's buying our basic needs, it's taking care of us. And it's a tool. It's absolutely a tool. It's not the be all end all for all of us. It is a tool that we're using to, um, create value in this life.
And for your personal debt, how did you get out of it? Because there's so many different methods. You have the snowball method. You can
Mhm.
utilize different companies like family credit to help lower payments and things. You can negotiate. You on your own. You can do bankruptcy. There's multiple things that are available.
Yeah.
What was your best way?
So we did the debt snowball method.
Okay.
And even though math wise, that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, um, if I was really awesome at math, which I'm not bad at math, but I wouldn't have
Not my,
been in
it's
that
not my
situation.
forte.
I wouldn't have been in that situation if I had really thought about the math, right? And so I needed to find something that was going to be motivating for us to keep going. And so that's what I also teach my clients, because that was, you take the smallest debt and you knock it out and you're like, that felt so good. Like I want to keep going. And having that, keeping it visual, that's another thing too that's very helpful, is to just go, this is the this is the way that I want to do it. But then at the end, being debt free and being able to say that, what does your life look like? And so I was talking with another financial advisor the other day, and she's like, use your five senses. Like, what is your life going to look like? What are you going to feel? What are you going to be able to taste? What are you going to see, smell, and all of those things when you're debt free? Like, what is your life going to look like? And really hold on to that, whatever method you choose. Because that's going to help carry you through, because it's not always an easy process. You're going to be getting phone calls, especially if you end up getting behind. in payments.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of a grind. So having support, that was the one thing that I regret, is that we didn't know about financial coaching back
Right.
then. And so my husband and I, we were white knuckling the whole thing. Like, I was like, I don't know what to say to someone that's calling and, they want money now. And I was like, well, we've got other priorities right now. Like, we're going to feed ourselves, you know?
Well, and I think that people don't realize, like, you can negotiate. You can negotiate your
Hmm.
APRs. You can negotiate your payments
Absolutely.
down. You can negotiate all of these different things. And yeah, it can be embarrassing. It can be hard, but that person
Hmm.
that's a customer service person on the other end is not going to remember you from the
No.
15 other calls that they're getting a day where they have to talk people through this, or like that they're just calling to like also pay their bills over and over and over
Yes.
again. So like it's not that embarrassing. Like they're not going to
Yeah.
remember you, and you don't have to share it with the world. But like I've
Yeah.
negotiated my APRs down. Like
Hmm.
when I realized you could do that, I was like, why am I paying 24% on a credit
Hmm.
card? I was like, just for that. So I called and I was like, "No, you guys can, I'm like, we can close the card. Then it's that or close the card. And then they'll negotiate. It's just like anything else. You've
Hmm.
got to be willing to barter and like come to a healthy medium with it.
Yeah. And they're expecting those calls. That's the other
Yeah.
thing.
They're
Is
trained for it. They
we
have a
think, "Oh my
whole
gosh, this is."
script.
Yes, we think it's maybe embarrassing, our situation or whatever, but my dad always says, "Don't ask is as good as a no." So ask. The worst thing they can say is no, and then
Yeah.
that, you can negotiate, you can do all types of things, but, they're expecting those calls. That's what their whole job is when they answer that phone, is they're expecting you on the other end.
And there's companies now that can like help you with this kind of stuff. Like if it's too hard for you to negotiate, if you're so far in the hole that like you don't see a way out and like you don't want to declare bankruptcy, which really should be like your very, very last option, there are nonprofits that literally work to help
Mhm.
families consolidate debt or make lower payments. That way they can get out of debt at some point. And
Mhm.
like they can make an entire financial plan for you and teach you also then the healthy habits that you might not have known because they know the ins and outs of it. They know how to negotiate with the
Yeah.
creditors and how to do this.
Mhm.
I think it's called Family Credit Line, something like that. But like there's multiple nonprofits though, as far as I
Sure.
know, that you can do like these kind of things. I mean, when you're thinking about like what is the best way, do you feel like if snowballs just it's too much for a family, they've got kids and we've got activities and we're trying not to like, yes, you're going to adjust, you have to adjust your lifestyle at that point, but you don't want to adjust it to the point of you're just eating ramen and noodles. What are some other ways
Yeah.
that you think you can get out of debt?
Um really, it is just figuring out how to get your expenses lower than your income. And so when you create that margin, one of the first ways that I teach my clients, especially they're going through the debt elimination process, is start meal planning. And I know that's like, oh my gosh, that's such a it's like the go-to answer, but I have some stuff to support this, and it's one of the last things that we did because I'm a terrible cook.
Yeah,
I have a
I
kitchen
feel
because it
that.
came with
Yep.
the house.
Same.
Um,
Same.
I my daughter thought, she asked me not to cook her bread once, and I was like, "Oh, my toast. Oh my gosh, this is bad. I have some work to do." So, so meal planning and doing it because the average US family wastes over $1,000 a year in food.
Yeah.
And when we think about $1,000, like think about the last emergency that went on your credit card that you're like, "Hey, I don't have enough in my checking account. I'm going to put this on the credit card and it's so I can, deal with it
Yeah.
later." It's usually about $1,000 or less. And so that's a great place to start to build some margin. We don't want to skip meals.
No.
Whether you have a family or not, like that is not healthy for anyone, skipping meals. And it's going to, so one of the resources that I recommend is the Supercook app, and you can find it online, or you can use Chat GPT, AI and stuff. Just plug in what you have on hand in your refrigerator, in your pantry, and it'll come up with recipes for you. So there's some really simple ways now, especially with all of the, AI and things like that, that can help us with those meal plans and not just sitting on Pinterest for hours and hours trying to find something that we're never going to make. But I'd say meal planning is absolutely the first spot. And then also because groceries are just not going to get any cheaper. I was thinking about
Yeah.
this morning, like that's a conversation we've had so many times, like when I was a kid, as an adult, now. things aren't going to get any less expensive. And so figuring out how to support your life based on what's most important to you, and eating and feeding your family are super important.
Do you think side hustles are a great way? And like, I mean, I think everybody at this point needs a side hustle because I don't feel like anybody's 9 to 5 is making enough money with inflation and the costs of everything rising. But like, do you feel like what are the best 9 to 5s that you've heard of for people to make like just easy money? Like, you don't need 5 degrees.
Yeah. So side hustles are an amazing way to build some margin because that all, most of them you can start for little or nothing. Especially like online. If you have a skill or a talent that people come to you often for, that's a great one to get started. I know there's some people that are like really great at putting together resumes. Well, just charge people that are looking for a job to start a new, look over their resume and give them some
Yeah.
tips. It could be really quick and easy. I know when my daughter was first born and we were in the pandemic, I did Instacart because it was time for me
Yeah.
to get out of the house. But then like that's a super easy one, especially if there's specific stores that you know already. Um, but I really think going back to something that you enjoy is also going to help you in this process, whether you are trying to, increase your savings or reduce your debt, is find something that you enjoy and then monetize it. And
Yeah.
so, whether it's podcasting or, maybe it's, helping other people do something that they're not gifted at, but you are, help them out and say, "Hey, if you're a kid, it's basically the same thing as like, hey, knocking on the neighbor's door, I'll mow your lawn for,
Mo, you're on.
$50." Yeah. And so
50
just find
bucks. Wow.
something.
Has it gone up? Love that for them.
I mean, depends on the yard, I guess.
Very true. I'm just like $10. Obviously, I haven't had a yard in a very long time. So therefore, I do not know the going rate, but good for you kids. I love that. What do you think that women should start doing with their money, not just from a side hustle perspective, but like you're working on getting out of debt, you're almost at debt or debt free, or you are debt free. What do you think they should be doing next with their money? Because just sitting in a bank account, like a normal bank account, isn't going to cut it anymore for kind of
Yeah.
to try and create wealth.
Yeah. I'm not the investment type person, so I usually refer those kinds of questions to financial advisors. I understand it for my own benefit.
Yeah.
I'm also not a licensed financial advisor, so I definitely think that that's an important conversation to have with a financial planner because every situation is going to be different. Depending on what your life looks like, what you want your life to look like in retirement, that type of stuff. I just sat down with ours and we were looking over and, having those conversations to say, are we on track? And even I was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm on track. And then I looked and I'm like, okay, because I hadn't looked at it for a little while. We were just kind of
Yeah.
going on autopilot. And so I think having those regular check-ins are really, really important to have with a licensed financial advisor to do that. The other thing that I wanted to point out that I think is super important, especially for women, is we can put other goals and other ideas and things like that ahead of our what we want sometimes, especially if we're parenting. Having something that's for you is super important. So I always encourage my clients to have fun money, or I have a client, they call it their ball out money. It's money. My mom, when we were growing up, she called it her mad money. So something that's
Yes.
yours
Remember
that
that.
no one else, so if you're managing money with someone else, but it's money that you can spend guilt free. And so this is also another thing that my clients that have ADHD like myself, it's money that you don't have to feel shameful about spending. And so that's why creating that budget is so important, because that will tell you how much that is. And then you're not derailing your long-term goals, but you're still able to like spend the money that you're earning.
Yeah, you could
And,
buy a new
whether it's a
dress, you can go
big,
out to dinner, whatever it might be.
yeah, yeah, but it's like your permission slip to spend and not have to think, okay, if I can't do this because I need to do this and this and this. Yes, all of those other things are important, and you're going to spend those in that monthly or weekly, however often you do your budgeting or your spending plan, whatever you want to call it, is making sure that there's some that's for you, and that's something that's going to bring you joy and enjoyment in this moment.
Well, and not being deprived, that has to be a huge thing and such a
Yeah.
mental thing too, where you're like, but
Yeah.
I still am able to live a little and enjoy because life is still meant to be enjoyed. And
Yes.
unfortunately, when you're in debt and you're burdened by debt, it's all consuming.
Yeah.
So what is one tip, if you could only give one to a woman that's in debt, what is
Mm.
the one tip that you would give them?
Ooh, this is a really good question. Um, I want to say just don't give up. Like it is absolutely worth it. It can be challenging and hard. And if you need support, get it. And that's what I love to provide is that kind of support. But don't give up when it gets hard. So however you need to make that happen, do it because it is absolutely worth it. I felt like it was crazy. And even in it feels like in today's day and age, it's like it's hard to think
Yeah.
about, like, being debt free, and, like, we're working on paying off our house right now, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," like, I could be we could have our home paid off before I retire,
Yeah.
and it's just like, that is such a cool thought, and it's absolutely possible, but it's making, like you said, those little adjustments, but we can still enjoy life, and so making sure that you're making room for that enjoyment, but also staying focused on that goal, but don't give up, it's absolutely worth it.
Okay, I love that. And as we wrap up the podcast, like one personal question I like to ask is if you could give
Yeah.
one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be? She didn't have debt because she didn't have a job or bills.
Yeah. Um, huh.
Right? You're like,
Oh
wow.
my okay, this is probably gonna sound a little funny, but, I would have absolutely told myself when someone asks you if you want that free T-shirt, say no. So
Okay.
back when I was in college, they're not allowed to do this anymore for obvious reasons. They offered you a free T-shirt if you sign up for a credit you just fill out the credit card application.
Yep.
I didn't have a job, I was going to college, and they gave me
Victoria's
a credit
Secret.
card. Yep. And so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And so I was like, sweet, a free t-shirt. So that's like one less day of laundry. And so I'm like thinking so much in the moment. And so that's what I wish so that like,
I
okay,
love that
when
advice.
someone offers
No.
you that free t-shirt, my very first econ class in college, the professor said there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always something attached to it. So I think that's like the big takeaway is there is absolutely nothing in this world that's free.
No. No, I totally agree. I love that. I think that's such a good note of advice. So you can find you on Debt Rebel Podcast. Tell everyone where they can find you
Yeah.
on socials. I'll link them in the show notes, of course.
I love hanging out on Threads right now. That is like my jam.
Threads
That
is
is my
awesome.
space.
Oh yeah. Threads is great. We love a good Threads.
I've been loving your posts, so
Thank you. Yes.
they're great. Yeah.
I have a lot of corporate insights on there where I'm just staring at a wall and I'm like, you know what? I got something to say.
Yes.
This is normally what's going on. Everyone,
Yes.
make sure to go check out Jewlz at the Debt Rebel Podcast. You can check her out on Instagram and we will showcase all those in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on. I hope you all took something away from this and I hope you all start having conversations about money. Have them with your friends, have them with your significant other. Just have them with strangers, have them with women, especially. But we should all be talking about money because that's the only way we're going to get out and we're going to get ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Of course. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next week.